Can't believe our little girl did this.
And what is her name?
The movie is set in 1993, 3 months after a team of scientists receives a second transmission from outer space during their search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The team led by Xavier Finch receives responses for messages sent from the Earth to outer space in 1973, named 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐫, which has information about the Earth and its inhabitants, in hopes of finding any form of intelligent life outside the Earth. 20 years later, the first response to 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐫 arrived with a catalyst for methane, which helped humans produce unlimited energy. This exchange convinces humans that these extraterrestrial beings are friendly, and so they wait for the second message eagerly. The second transmission contains foreign DNA, with instructions on how to mix it with human DNA. Xavier and his team splice the foreign DNA with that of a human female embryo, believing a female being would be more docile and easier to control. The embryo grows exponentially and is named 𝐂𝐿 when born. 𝐂𝐿 grows to a 12-year-old girl in just 3 months and is kept in a cage for observation. The scientists fear 𝐂𝐿 could be a danger to humanity and plan to kill her using toxic gas. One day, Xavier watches with teary eyes as a team of people proceeds to inject toxic gas into 𝐂𝐿's cage. 𝐂𝐿 is terrified of what's going on and pleads with Xavier for help.
I'm sorry.
Then out of nowhere, 𝐂𝐿 uses all her might to break through the foggy glasses of her cage and escapes, causing mayhem in the laboratory. The team and everyone in the building chase 𝐂𝐿, but are no match for her speed. 𝐂𝐿 runs to the train station and fatally attacks a transient. She then changes out of her hospital gown into the man's clothes and proceeds on her way. 𝐂𝐿 discreetly gets in the back of a train and continues traveling further away from the government laboratory in Utah. At the next stop, she steals a luggage and boards on a train heading to Los Angeles. She sneaks around on the train, stealing toiletries and packaged food. The train conductor sees the little girl traveling alone and sympathizes with her. She helps 𝐂𝐿 with her ticket, sets her up in a private room, and makes sure she has everything she needs. That night, 𝐂𝐿 is awakened from her nap by a terrifying nightmare. Then she starts crying out in pain as she starts to feel something move inside of her. 𝐂𝐿 runs to the bathroom and is terrified to see some tendril-like protrusions come out of her body, covering her completely and turning her into a giant blob. Later that night, the train conductor came to check on 𝐂𝐿, but couldn't find the little girl anywhere. She then checks the bathroom and is bewildered by what she sees. Meanwhile, back in Utah, Xavier decides to call a team of experts who can handle the situation discreetly and professionally. The team of experts consists of empath Dan Smith, with special gifts at finding out the hidden things, Stephen Arden, a Harvard anthropologist with a specialty in cross-cultural behavior, Laura Baker, a molecular biologist, and Preston Lennox, a government-trained assassin. Xavier welcomes his team and starts explaining the mission and the story behind 𝐂𝐿 using the multiple videotapes he kept throughout the study.
Watch her eyes.
Xavier emphasizes that the mission is a search and destroy one and advises the team to be careful. 𝐂𝐿 gets to Los Angeles and gets off the train dressed in the deceased conductor's uniform. She walks around the city, shopping, and changes into a new dress. Meanwhile, the expert team is called to the scene of the train crime. Upon arrival, they're disgusted by what they see and collect as much evidence as they can. Concluding that 𝐂𝐿 has probably gotten off the train in Los Angeles, the expert team heads there and sets up base. The team then comes up with the idea to grow the foreign DNA collected from the crime scene without mixing it with anything so that they can know exactly what they're dealing with. Then, as they start the experiment and Laura starts injecting the foreign DNA into an empty capsule, the microscope breaks. To avoid unauthorized personnel coming in contact with the experiment, Laura offers to fix it herself and employs the help of Preston to go into the next room and check out the microscope. They get inside, and Laura manages to fix the microscope. To everyone's utter horror, the fixed microscope shows that the growth of the foreign DNA has already started and is moving at an incredible pace. Xavier screams through the glass from the adjoining room for Laura and Preston to bolt the microscope down and secure the organism. Preston loses the bolt, and panic starts setting in. Laura and Preston start running around the room trying to find the bolt and secure the microscope while screaming for help and for Xavier to open the door. Xavier refuses to help them unless they kill the organism and activates the protocol that will burn down the experiment room for 2 minutes. The countdown starts, and the organism grows non-stop. Laura and Preston run around trying to kill the creature while Dan and Steven beg Xavier to open the door. After moments of utter chaos, Steven and Dan overpower Xavier and open the door for their colleagues. Laura and Preston run out breathlessly while forcing the door closed on the organism. Elsewhere, after a day of shopping, Sil, who has now become a teenager, gets a room at a small motel. She spends some time in her room, excitedly watches some TV, changes her clothes, and goes out looking for men. The manager of the hotel directs her to a club, and even though she paid in cash, takes her credit card, which she stole from the conductor, to charge and register her room. As soon as he charges the credit card, Preston is alerted of Sil's whereabouts, as the team had the late conductor's items tracked. The expert team rushes to the motel where they find a grainy video of Sil and are informed of the club she was headed to. In the club, Sil, now 23, tries to talk to a man, but another girl jumps in front of her and steals the man's attention. Sil follows the girl to the bathroom and brutally kills her. Sil returns to the dancing area and flirts with another man named Robbie, who offers to take her home. Sil leaves the club to go to Robbie's home just as the expert team arrives, shuts down the club, and starts interrogating everyone. The team gets the description of Robbie and tracks Sil to his house, hoping to catch her before she mates with him. There, Sil and Robbie spend some time together, but sensing that Robbie has diabetes and not wanting to mix her genes with him, Sil refuses to sleep with him. When Robbie tries to force her, she attacks him brutally and kills him. Sil then takes Robbie's car and disappears. The expert team gets there a few minutes later and discovers Robbie's mutilated body and confirms that Sil is out looking for a partner to mate and reproduce with.
Yes, I know.
The next morning, as she gets out of Robbie's car and starts walking, a car comes out of nowhere and runs over her. Sil is taken to the hospital, and when she's about to be treated for a broken scapula, the doctor witnesses with horror as Sil's body heals itself. John, the driver of the car, gives his credit card information to the hospital reception and waits to hear Sil's prognosis. Sil comes out of the examination room looking okay and asks him to take her to his house, with the team on her tail. At John's house, Sil feels relaxed and comfortable as it's away from the city. Sil comes on to John and joins him in the pool. She then tries to seduce him, but is interrupted by the expert team's knock on the door. John opts to answer the door while Sil asks him to ignore it, stay, and get intimate with her. John refuses to, and as he proceeds to leave the pool, she forces him underwater, causing him to drown while attacking him brutally. The team breaks down the door and finds John brutally murdered like the rest of Sil's victims. Preston and Laura walk around the yard checking if Sil is there, while she watches them from behind the trees in her alien form. After searching thoroughly, the team calls it a night and returns to the hotel, making a plan to go check out the club the next day. Sil goes to John's neighbor, ties her to the bed, and spends the night there. That night, Sil has a dream where she gets intimate with Preston. The next day, Sil wakes up confused and wondering who she is while the woman screams pleading for mercy next to her. Sil drives the woman's car around, studying the area, and comes up with a plan. She steals a car and fills the trunk with the multiple gallons of gas she bought and prepares for later that evening to carry out her plan. That evening, the expert team hangs out at the club looking for Sil. When they all go their separate ways to widen their chance to catch Sil, she follows and corners Dan, shocking him to bits. Then she starts retreating. Dan alerts the rest of the team and they all run after her as she gets into her car, where she has put the tied woman. The team takes their car to follow her and a car chase ensues. After the chase goes on for a few moments, Sil's car goes down a slope and crashes into an electric pole, causing a huge explosion. The expert team is shocked to see this and watches from afar as emergency responders extinguish the fire and conclude there couldn't be any survivors. Sil is seen walking to a car, unharmed and driving away. Xavier congratulates the expert team on a job well done and declares the mission is officially over. Preston doesn't buy that 𝐂𝐤 is dead, as the whole thing feels a little too staged. 𝐂𝐤 immediately works on changing her appearance and changes her blonde hair to dark brown. Later that night, the expert team sits around, hanging out and celebrating their last day on the job. Dan senses that Preston and Laura like each other and encourages them to get together. Laura starts dancing with Preston, but interrupts it to go to the bathroom. 𝐂𝐤, unidentified in her new look, follows Laura into the bathroom, asks to borrow her perfume, and wears it, hoping to attract Preston's attention with it. Then Laura tells the team that she wants to retire and heads to her room. After a few moments, Preston leaves the group to join Laura in her room. 𝐂𝐤 follows him to the elevator and tries to start a conversation. Preston compliments 𝐂𝐤 on her perfume but doesn't make a move. The frustrated 𝐂𝐤 follows him discreetly as he goes to Laura's room. Inside, Preston and Laura get intimate while 𝐂𝐤 steals the key to the room next to Laura's, enters it, and hears everything through the walls. A few minutes later, Steven comes to his room and is surprised to see a beautiful girl with dark brown hair. 𝐂𝐤 lies to Steven and tells him that she was too shy to approach him and that she broke into his room hoping to get close to him. Steven is confused and flattered, but doesn't have the time to process what's happening as 𝐂𝐤 seduces him into sleeping with her. Dan, sleeping a few doors down, feels 𝐂𝐤's presence around and leaves his room to check out what's going on. As he passes by Steven's room, he gets a mental picture of what's happening inside and rushes to wake Preston and the rest of the team. Meanwhile, inside Steven's room, 𝐂𝐤 and Steven get intimate, and she tells him that she feels a life has started inside of her. On the other side, the team comes together and rushes to Steven's room but are too late as they find him brutally murdered. The team starts searching for 𝐂𝐤 and follows Dan's vision down to the basement and through a sewer into a tunnel. In the tunnel, the team splits up and Xavier is attacked and killed. Dan, Preston, and Laura forge on with the guidance of Dan's senses. Meanwhile, 𝐂𝐤 is shown in her alien form in a cave in the tunnel as she screams in pain while giving birth. The surviving team follows 𝐂𝐤 and finds a young boy who turns into a creature and is seen eating rats. Then multiple creatures are seen in the tunnel and the team helps each other in killing them all and setting them on fire. Dan, Preston, and Laura congratulate each other on surviving and proceed to leave the tunnel into the sewer. Meanwhile, back in the tunnel, the movie concludes as a surviving alien form is seen eating rats, hinting that the fight to save humanity from the creature they themselves engineered is far from over. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.